It begins with a simple, quiet morning. You walk into a room, and suddenly, the reason you are there vanishes. You stare at the doorway, searching for a thought that has simply dissolved into the fog. Fools today accept this mental erosion as a normal, unavoidable part of aging. They blame the passage of time. They accept the narrative that your mind is meant to wither. But the ancient scholars, the scribes who spent their entire lives hunched over texts in flickering candlelight, knew the truth. They knew exactly how to keep a brain razor-sharp well into their 80s. There was no medical miracle in their era. There was only nature, and the deep, profound understanding of how to use it. Modern clinical studies now suggest what our ancestors always knew. Certain herbs directly support the flow of blood and oxygen to the frontal lobe of the brain. Today, we are looking at the exact biological armor used throughout history to fight off the fog of time. We are talking about unbreakable ancestral continuity, standing firm against the fragile convenience of modern decline. Later in this journey, we will uncover a marshland creeper that was treated like a wartime asset for sheer neurological endurance. And wait until you see the final plant on our list. A backyard staple that quietly generated household wealth with zero labor. A plant so historically revered that modern clinical studies suggest merely smelling its essential oils can spike your short-term memory by up to 75%. This is about building a living, breathing pharmacy in your own soil. If you are someone who wants to protect your health with ancestral herbs, reclaim your time, and grow inflation-proof wealth right in your own backyard, we are constantly unearthing history's most powerful, proven botanical blueprints. So subscribe right now to ensure you never miss a single piece of this forgotten wisdom. We begin with the first pillar of cognitive defense, the instant awakener, commonly known to us as peppermint. Do not let its common name fool you. In the monastic gardens of the Middle Ages, this plant was an absolute necessity. Monks who were sworn to endless nocturnal prayers relied on the aggressive, cooling compounds of peppermint leaves to snap their minds to attention when exhaustion threatened to pull them under. It was the original, unadulterated focus enhancer. When the mind wanders, when the afternoon lethargy sets in, the volatile oils in the simple leaf cross the blood-brain barrier with astonishing speed, awakening the senses without the jagged crash of modern synthetic stimulants. Biologically, this plant is entirely indestructible. It is a fierce survivor. It thrives in poor soil, spreads relentlessly, and laughs at the deep freezes of brutal winters. It asks for nothing and gives everything. Let us look at the brutal economics of this simple weed. A $3 starter plant spreads so aggressively that it easily yields over 200 cups of focus-enhancing tea a year. By replacing your morning dependency on expensive, artificial energy drinks or specialized coffees, this single patch of earth effectively keeps $150 in your pocket annually. It outlasts the harshest frosts and returns every spring, ready to serve. But sharp focus is only the beginning. True cognitive longevity requires something deeper. It requires the ability to remain incredibly calm while the mind works at its highest capacity. That brings us to our second historical anchor, the monastic alpha wave, found in true green tea, and specifically matcha. For over 1,000 years, Japanese Zen monks cultivated the Camellia sinensis bush not for casual drinking, but as a biological tool for endurance. They needed to meditate for hours without falling asleep, yet without feeling the jittery anxiety of overstimulation. The secret lies in a naturally occurring amino acid called L-theanine. Modern clinical studies suggest that L-theanine promotes the generation of alpha brainwaves. These are the exact brainwaves associated with a state of wakeful relaxation. It is the feeling of being completely dialed in, without the stress. This plant is an absolute generational investment. A true tea shrub can live and produce for over a century. It is a slow-growing fortress of health. Cultivating just 3 of these evergreens in a temperate backyard can yield enough raw leaf to replace $400 of premium matcha powder per year. You are planting a multi-generational harvest of focused calm. You are securing a legacy of mental clarity for your children and your children's children. Yet, there are times when calm is not enough. Sometimes, the brain needs absolute repair. Sometimes, you need the swamp scribe's secret. And that leads us to the third botanical marvel, gotu kola. In the ancient apothecary traditions of India and China, this low-growing, unassuming plant was revered as the fountain of life. It was exclusively prescribed to scholars, elders, and leaders who required relentless mental stamina. When a modern mind feels scattered, ancient wisdom points to gotu kola. It was essentially treated like a wartime asset for neurological endurance, utilized by herbalists to support the very structure of the nervous system and encourage healthy circulation to the deepest vessels of the brain. Gotu kola is a creeping perennial that thrives precisely where other plants drown. It loves wet, poorly drained soil. It transforms unusable, soggy patches of your homestead into a high-value apothecary bed. Think about the massive financial drain of modern cognitive decline. Instead of spending $60 a month on heavily marketed synthetic nootropic pills, a 3-foot patch of this perennial creeper provides $720 worth of daily, brain-supporting compounds year after year. It takes the absolute worst soil on your property and turns it into pure economic anti-fragility. We now transition from the swamps to the walled gardens of Europe. Because long before modern science attempted to bottle youth, 14th century nuns had already perfected it. This is our fourth biological shield. The nuns' elixir of youth, known to the world as lemon balm. During the darkest days of the plague and widespread famine, Carmelite nuns distilled this bright, citrus-scented herb into an iconic tonic. It was famously used to ward off melancholy, cognitive fatigue, and the heavy mental fog that accompanied endless winters. Historical texts are filled with accounts of royalty using lemon balm to maintain a sharp memory and an unshakable spirit in the face of immense stress. It is a profound nervous system soother working to calm the mind while sharpening the memory. Because it belongs to the mint family, lemon balm is a brutal survivor. You can abandon it, you can freeze it under a foot of snow, and it will still push through the thawing earth in early spring. A single robust plant yields enough foliage to craft over 300 doses of apothecary-grade tincture a year. That is a $500 value for an investment of absolutely zero winter labor. It is a lazy gardener's dream and a prepper's absolute baseline for medicinal independence. Pause. Stop for a second. Let us step away from the garden. Look around your home right now. Look at the convenience. We have spoken of vitality, of focus, of monastic peace. But what happens when the fragile illusion of our modern world breaks? Think about the Great Depression. Think about the rationing of World War II. Think about a localized grid failure, or a disruption in the global supply chain that stops the trucking industry dead in its tracks. When the pharmacy gates lock, what is your backup plan? Fools stockpile only calories and ammunition. But cognitive survival is true survival. If the supply chain snaps, your mind is your only weapon. The fog of starvation, the paralyzing grip of stress, the sheer mental exhaustion of a collapsing economy, these will break a family faster than any physical threat. If your brain cannot process complex problems, if your memory begins to slip when you need it most, your canned goods will not save you. Ancestral continuity is about having a pharmacy rooted deep in the earth, completely immune to inflation, stock market crashes, and shipping delays. With that reality in mind, we must look to the deep woods. We must look to the things that grow on decay itself. That brings us to our fifth fortress of memory. The forest's nerve architect, lion's mane. Buddhist monks foraging in the damp, mountainous hardwood forests discovered this bizarre, cascading white mushroom centuries ago. They consumed it strictly before deep meditation, noting its profound ability to clear the mind. Today we understand the biological mechanisms behind the lore. Modern studies suggest that lion's mane contains unique compounds that stimulate the synthesis of nerve growth factor. It is the historical equivalent of rebuilding the biological wiring of your brain. Lion's mane does not need fertile soil. It does not need sunlight. It grows on dying logs, transforming literal rot into high-grade functional medicine. It thrives in the neglected, shaded corners of your property. A simple, inoculated hardwood log will fruit dependably for 5 to 7 years. Over its lifespan, that single log will yield over 15 pounds of pristine medicinal mushrooms. If you bought that exact volume dried and encapsulated in a modern health food store, you would be handing over $900. Instead, you are manufacturing neurological armor out of dead wood and shadow. But what about sheer, unyielding stress? When the mind is under attack from cold, exhaustion, and physical labor, we must look to the frozen tundra. This is our sixth botanical titan, the taiga's shield, known botanically as eleuthero, or Siberian ginseng. This is not a delicate garden flower. This is the exact adaptogenic root that Soviet cosmonauts carried into the freezing void of space. It is the root that deep winter pioneers and Siberian hunters chewed on to stop mental exhaustion from killing them in the snow. Eleuthero does not just stimulate, it radically alters how your central nervous system responds to severe physical and mental stress. It pushes back the threshold of fatigue, allowing the brain to remain sharp when the body is begging to quit. This shrub is biologically indestructible. It routinely survives temperatures dropping to -40 degrees. It laughs at ice storms. Planting just 2 of these hardy shrubs secures a localized 50-year root harvest. By harvesting and drying a portion of the roots every few years, you are building an adaptogenic apothecary that saves a family roughly $800 every single winter in commercial stress relief and energy supplements. It is the ultimate insurance policy against hard times. Moving from the freezing tundra to the rocky, sun-baked hills of the Mediterranean, we find our 7th historical savior, the ancient purifier, true sage. The very word sage comes from the Latin word salvia, which literally translates to save or to heal. During the sweeping plagues of the Middle Ages, when entire cities were paralyzed by fear and disease, thieves and apothecaries alike relied on strong infusions of sage to maintain their mental clarity and protect their bodies. Herbalists noted that regular consumption of sage tea prevented the rapid memory decline typically seen in the aging peasant class. It was the protector of the aging mind. Sage demands almost nothing from the earth. It is incredibly drought-resistant and prefers poor, rocky, well-draining soil where most vegetables would simply wither and die. A single sage plant offers a 10-year lifespan of continuous, year-round harvests. By drying the leaves for winter teas and creating potent throat and mind lozenges, a homestead replaces expensive commercial cold remedies and memory tonics, keeping at least $300 a year firmly in your pocket. It is a perennial workhorse that pays for itself 1,000 times over. As we approach the pinnacle of our list, we must look at a plant that transcends human history, a plant that was here before the continents shifted. Our 8th botanical giant is the living fossil of circulation, the ginkgo biloba tree. The ginkgo tree is a survivor of deep time. It is so biologically resilient that ginkgo trees famously survived the atomic blast at Hiroshima, budding new leaves from scorched trunks just months after the devastation. For centuries, monks planted these magnificent trees outside ancient temples, utilizing the fan-shaped leaves to brew a tea that violently expanded the microcapillaries in the brain. Ginkgo literally forces blood, oxygen, and nutrients into the deepest recesses of the mind, washing away the sluggishness of age. This tree is immune to modern pollution, it repels pests naturally, and it ignores disease. It is the ultimate generational asset. A single tree outlives generations, eventually providing over 40 pounds of circulation-supporting leaves annually. To buy that volume in a commercially extracted form would cost you well over $1,200 every single year. You do not just plant a ginkgo tree for yourself. You plant it as a towering vault of wealth and health for your grandchildren. And now, we reach the absolute summit, the final weapon in our arsenal. The Emperor's Memory Vault, the undisputed boss of cognitive longevity. Rosemary. There is a reason why Shakespeare penned the immortal words, "Rosemary is for remembrance." There is a reason why ancient Greek scholars wore woven wreaths of raw rosemary around their heads while taking rigorous examinations. It was not mere superstition. It was highly advanced ancestral science. Modern clinical studies have finally caught up to the ancients, demonstrating that simply inhaling the scent of rosemary essential oil can increase short-term memory performance by up to 75%. The active compound, eucalyptol, directly impacts the neurotransmitters in the brain responsible for memory consolidation. Rosemary is an evergreen shrub that completely thrives on neglect. It loves the heat, it handles drought with ease, and it stays green and potent all year long. A single mature bush yields over 400 sprigs a season. By distilling your own essential oils, infusing it into your cooking oils, or simply brewing a daily cup of its robust tea, you are entirely replacing a cabinet full of synthetic cognitive aids. This single plant secures a $600 annual return on investment for 25 years. It is an unkillable biological machine that defends your brain cells while requiring almost zero maintenance. We have just walked through the exact biological blueprints that our ancestors used to build unbreakable minds. But knowing the plants is not enough. You need a system. You need to build your own decentralized biological grid. Do not let this information just be another video you watched. Implement this 4-step framework starting today. Step 1 is securing your fast wins. You need immediate morale and mental clarity to keep going. Plant peppermint and lemon balm first. They are impossible to kill, and will give you a harvest within weeks. Step 2 is establishing your calorie anchors. Mental energy requires fuel. Do not just plant herbs. Surround them with deep-rooted root crops that will feed your body while the herbs feed your mind. Step 3 is planting your perennial insurance. Get sage and rosemary into the ground immediately. Let them establish their root systems now, so they can provide zero labor yields for the next 2 decades. Step 4 is building your legacy. Plant the ginkgo tree. Plant the ancient evergreens. Put things into the earth that will outlast you, providing shade, medicine, and economic anti-fragility for the generations that follow your name. The modern world is designed to make you fragile. It wants you dependent on synthetic solutions, fluorescent pharmacies, and fragile supply chains. It wants you to believe that the fading of your mind is inevitable. You now have a choice to make. Are you team convenience, willing to let the fog roll in as you age? Or are you team continuity, ready to step outside, put your hands in the dirt, and build an unbreakable biological fortress? If you want to plant once and harvest for decades, if you want to secure your family's health and wealth against the coming storms, click the video on your screen right now. It will show you exactly how to build a survival garden that never dies. Nature has already provided the cure for our modern fragility. You just have to be wise enough to plant it.